Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. On the agenda, we start with disclosure of pecuniary interest. Deputy Mayor Widner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have two, both the Sparta Line Municipal Drains number 1 and 2.
Noted. Thank you. Next is approval of our previous minutes. Resolution.
That the minutes of the regular meeting of the council held on February 16th, 2023 be adopted as printed and circulated.
Mover and seconder, Serna, Leach. Any discussions, errors, omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Next, we have a meeting to consider Sparta Line Municipal Drain number 1. Do we start with you, John, with an overview?
Sure, your worship. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Great. So tonight's meeting is the consideration of the Sparta Line drain number 1. So to give you a brief overview, this is a drain that came about as a result of a request by or a petition by Mr. Butters, who owns a portion of the land on the north side of Sparta Line, and also the road authority for Sparta Line, because they intend to do some road improvements on there and they need a legal outlet for their drainage. Mr. Butters needed an outlet for his drainage. So what we're proposing to do tonight is start in a ravine on the south side of Sparta Line and run a new closed drain across the Desjardins property, across Sparta Line, just into the Butters property for a total length of about 130 meters with 375 millimeter, 15-inch diameter pipe. That's a brief overview. That will give the township an outlet for their road water, and that will give Mr. Butters an outlet for his water as well. Are there any questions, your worship?
Let me check with council. Any questions? Comments? Doesn't look like it. Mr. Weeb, did you have any questions or comments on drain number 1?
No, it's good.
Okay, thank you. We'll proceed with the resolution then.
That the engineer's report for the Sparta Line drain number 1 be accepted, and that bylaw number 23-12 being a bylaw to provide for the Sparta Line drain number 1 drainage works be read a first and second time and provisionally adopted.
Mover and seconder. Serna, Glinsky, all in favor? Carried.
That the Court of Revision for the Sparta Line drain number 1 be scheduled to be held on April 6, 2023 at 7:30 p.m.
Mover and seconder, Lewis, Leach, all in favor? Carried.
That the tenders for the construction of the Sparta Line drain number 1 be requested for March 30th, 2023 at 11 a.m.
Mover and seconder. Leach, Wilson, all in favor? Carried. Okay, so we can proceed to review an overview of drain number 2. Mr. Spreed, back to you.
Thank you, your worship. Tonight's meeting is a consideration of the Sparta Line number 2 drain. So this has to deal with the construction aspects of the drain. This drain, like the last drain, was a result of a petition signed by Mr. Butters, who owns the land on the north side of his property. He needs an outlet for his lands. And the road authority also, in conjunction with this works, is intending to reconstruct the road in this area. They need an outlet too. So what we're proposing to do is start at a ravine in Mr. Weeb's property and run 140 meters through his lands. We've gotten a tile map from him, so we're trying to pick a route where we're not going to damage any of his tile through his lands to the north side of Sparta Line, just into Mr. Butters' drain. So a total length of 166 meters, and it's 300 millimeter diameter pipe we're using in this case. Any questions, your worship?
Thank you for that. Any questions? Seeing none from council, Mr. Weeb?
No, all good.
Thank you. Resolution then.
That the engineer's report for the Sparta Line Drain number 2 be accepted and that bylaw number 23-13 being a bylaw to provide for the Sparta Line Drain number 2 drainage works be read a first and second time and provisionally adopted.
Mover and seconder. Serna, Leach, all in favor? Carried.
That the Court of Revision for the Sparta Line Drain number 2 be scheduled to be held on April 6, 2023 at 7:30 PM.
Mover and seconder. Lewis, Glinsky, all in favor? Carried.
That the tenders for the construction of the Sparta Line Drain number 2 be requested for March 30th, 2023 at 11 AM.
Mover and seconder. Wilson, Leach, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Spreet. I think you're off the hook as far
Thank
as
you.
this, the rest of this meeting. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship.
Have a
Have
nice
great
evening. So we can now move into reports of departments. First report is from our Director of Finance and Treasurer, Director Boylan.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to obtain council's approval for the reduction of property taxes as applicable under section 357 and 358 of the Municipal Act. Section 357 applications deal with properties that have changes in their characteristics or use. And section 358 applications deal with identifiable errors made on MPAC's assessment roll. So the applications we have tonight are pretty straightforward. I've summarized them in my report for council's review. They've been vetted by staff as well as MPAC and are recommended to be approved as presented.
Thank you for that. Questions, comments from council? Everybody's fine with this report, so the resolution.
That report number FIN 23-02 titled Applications for Assessment Adjustments under Section 357 and 358 of the Municipal Act 2001 be received, and that pursuant to Section 357A and D of the Municipal Act 2001, the township's treasurer be authorized to amend the township's tax collection rule for the amount of $7,782.75.
Mover and seconder. Wilson, Lewis, all in favor? Carried. Next report on the agenda is from CO Betteridge, starting with site plan control activity report.
Thank you, Your Worship. So last year, council directed that a new site plan control bylaw be adopted with some delegated authority for approvals to staff. And in that new bylaw, it was also directed that staff provide a biannual activity report of site plan approval. So I've provided details with the two site plans that have been approved by the CEO since the last report. So one is in the village of Port Bruce, and the other is on Hacienda Road. If there's any questions or concerns about the report, I can answer those, but there's nothing further to add.
Thank you for that. Questions, comments? Councillor Leach.
Your worship, the second site plan, is that across from the police college?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Any further comments or questions? If not, we'll proceed with the resolution.
That report number DS 23-7 entitled Site Plan Control Activity Report be received.
Mover and seconder. Wilson, Widner, all in favor? Carried. Back to you, CO Betteridge, for the, are you doing the,
Yeah.
which one are you doing first? Electoral districts?
So I'll move first on the next item, which is as the procedural policy for planning
yeah.
notices received from other municipalities. What this is intended is not to withhold information from council, but rather bring those matters to council's attention when there are or potential implications to policies or development within the township of Malahide, and keep those minor insignificant applications that we are circulated on as a delegated, like a discretionary to staff to not respond to. So what it is sort of saving information provided in the correspondence reports. We are seeing an increase of some minor planning applications from neighboring municipalities that are beyond the requirements of the Planning Act. In essence, they're not just providing the planning applications that they're specifically prescribed to circulate, but rather circulating all of their planning notices to the township. So in general response to that is to help minimize the amount of notices brought forward to council's consideration, especially acknowledging that there's you can prioritize your attention to other more important matters, and keeping those insignificant notices from other municipalities dealt with through staff. If there's any questions or concerns to this report, what I might add is it's not entirely uncommon to have these policies. Some municipalities have them, some don't. What it is like I've said, to sort of reduce the amount of notices that council needs to review and consider.
Any concerns or questions with this suggestion? Anything to reduce the the volume of information, streamline? Councillor Leach.
Your worship, what is the determining factor of what we see and what we don't see?
So I tried to stipulate that in those 4 clauses. So there is one matter on correspondence agenda tonight from Central Elgin. That is one that would certainly be brought forward or at least put on the correspondence agenda. What we do tend to see are generally municipalities that have site specific. So say a neighboring municipality, a property owner wants to build a new deck and they need a minor variance. The Planning Act requires that a municipality to which that application is being applied for, if that property is located within 1 kilometer of another municipal jurisdiction, that clerk from that municipality is to circulate the neighboring municipality. But if it's beyond 1 kilometer, that deck or whatever that minor variance has to deal with is likely not going to have too much implications on how we approve or not approve or consider planning applications. So it's trying to reduce those insignificant applications from bogging down council's agenda for any given night. So what I've tried to do is provide those 4 clauses to prioritize the significant ones and allow staff to deal and administer the insignificant ones.
If I understand correctly, you're saying that we're receiving notification or notices that are beyond what is required. So even beyond 1 kilometer, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So may not be necessary. It's not even required for us to see it. Okay. Any further questions or comments? If not, let's go with the resolution.
That report number DS 23-08 entitled Procedural Policy for Planning Notices Received from Other Municipalities be received, and that council direct administration to finalize and implement a procedural policy as provided.
Mover and seconder. Leach, Lewis, all in favor? Carried. Now we can proceed for a follow-up report on electoral districts.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, right, council will recall that there was an originally proposed plan which was going to separate some portions of the township of Southold and the municipality of Central Elgin and St. Thomas and into its own electoral riding with a portion of South London. The calls from the county partners were looking at an option that included all of Elgin within one riding. That has been achieved in their amended or newly proposed redistribution, as shown on page 30 of our agenda this evening. If there's any questions or comments I can address, but there's nothing further to add to my report.
Comments or questions? Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. It was good to see that the people won and the politicians won and reverse this, because I didn't see any sense at all in it myself. But I guess it was driven by Toronto or whatever. So It was good to see that we actually had a win, so one for us.
Yeah, it is nice to see that there are no municipalities that are divided into multiple districts. That didn't seem to make sense. It seemed like the first criteria was strictly about numbers and not necessarily about making sense for in a day-to-day practical way. So yeah, so I want to recognize all the work that went into it, all the levels of government. I mean, we contributed comments, members of the public. I mean, all the sessions, the feedback sessions were well attended. So there was a lot of advocacy work that went into it and from our MP and MPP's office. So that's much appreciated and it worked. So good news. Counselor Wilson.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I hope the Thames Valley School Board is also cognizant of where that dividing line is. There's a difference between Elgin and Middlesex and what's coming up in their next arc with skimming off students from East Elgin's catchment is worrying to me. And I hope that they're looking at where that line is as well.
Interesting point, because that line creates that recognition that there is a separation. So yeah, to be continued for sure. So resolution to receive the report then?
The report number CAO 23-03 entitled Follow-up Report Proposed Revised Redistribution of Federal electoral districts be received, and that the mayor be directed to provide a letter of support to Malahide's Member of Parliament, Karen Vecchio, for the Federal Electoral Boundaries Commission for the Province of Ontario proposal of a unified Elgin County and City of St. Thomas represented by one federal electoral district.
Mover and seconder. Wilson, Serna, all in favor? Carried. Next on the agenda, it's back to you, CEO Betteridge, the ECC request for the desiccant unit.
Thank you, your worship. So sitting as the EECC board, council received a report from the town CAO with regards to repair or replacement with of a rooftop desiccant unit that deals with humidity within the arena facility. The report spoke to possibly needing to deal with the removal of ice so that a decision could be made. The EECC board considered and asked questions of town administration. It ultimately being decided that town administration work through and obtain 3 quotations from qualified service companies who could perform a repair to the existing unit. It being noted that time was sensitive because if it gets too late, it would risk needing to take the ice out. So what I've done is town council considered a report from their CAO last night, provided their CAO an exemption from its procurement policy to make a selection from the 3 quotations received, provided that township council was satisfied. So that correspondence was sent to me last night, and it's included as an attachment to this report. There were 3 reports received. In my report, there's nothing further to add, but I will summarize. It's my recommendation that we support the budget request for the repair of the unit. However, the award or the selection of the ultimate company who's going to perform the repairs is ultimately a responsibility of town administration through its procurement policies or direction from its council. So notwithstanding township council has been requested to award the service company, it's my recommendation that what we simply do is respond to the town advising that we are supportive of the budget allocation for the repairs and leave it to town administration to select the award the service. Nothing further to add.
Okay, thank you for that. So yes, indeed, that was a lengthy discussion at the last ECC board meeting, and it is a time-sensitive matter. So if we want to keep the ice. So any questions or comments? Are we willing to proceed with supporting and essentially paying our contribution to the repair. Deputy Mayor Whitner?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess I did look at the tenders. My only concern is, and there's a heater unit in it. I don't know if that was looked at. I hope it was given a thorough look over and then a quote put on it, not just picking 2 or 3 parts, but there's a lot of parts to it, but I didn't see anything about heater unit. I'd just like to verify that that is going to be okay or be looked at.
Through your, unfortunately, I can't confirm what was entailed or involved in the, the procurement of quotes, how the quotes were, received and considered. So with that, I do have a hesitancy of council because we haven't been involved in it and it wasn't done in accordance with our procurement policies. That's where I do recommend that we don't select, we let town administration make that call.
Any further questions or comments? So we'll do the resolution then.
That report number CIO 23-04 entitled EECC Joint Board Request Rooftop Desiccant Unit be received and that the Malahide Council authorize the capital expenditure for repairs to the EECC Desiccant Unit with an upset limit of $22,500.
Mover and seconder, Lewis.
What that value is.
So, right, so I'm gonna just do a seconder then. So Lewis and Leach. And before the vote, clarification.
Yeah, clarification is so in that recommendation, that 22,500 represents the township's 50% half of the full estimated cost of the repair, which was 45,000.
Counselor Glinski, any questions?
There. I thought the low price was in the 35 range
So,
from Johnson's, I believe.
so we're not, what they're asking is an upset limit of 45,000 or 50%
Oh.
share. And we were going to let the town consider the various quotes that were submitted. So we,
Okay,
so
Okay.
we'll.
we're
they'll
covering all our
determine the plan.
bases.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a mover and seconder. If there are no further comments, or discussion, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Next report is regarding the recruitment of summer students. Start.
Thank you, your worship. So yes, this report was prepared by Sue Lowen, our new human resources manager who's in attendance. I'll present on her behalf, but there are any questions. This matter was discussed briefly through last night's budget deliberations. It's the addition of one additional student, and what this will do is allow staff to move forward with the recruitment. Just to summarize, there is allocation for 2 students already, but this is the recommendation will result in an addition of one more.
Any questions or comments? Council Glinski.
Madam Mayor, is there a grant for summer students?
Through your worship, I will defer to our human resources manager and or our treasurer.
Hi, through you, Madam Mayor. There is grants available through the Federal Canada Grant Program. We have applied. At this present time, we don't have a report back indicating what we've been approved for. Typically in the past, we have seen that they've given us the grant amounts that we've requested. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? That's good. Resolution.
That report number HR 23-02 entitled the recruitment of summer students be received and that the human resource manager be authorized to recruit 3 summer student positions one Parks General Laborer student, one Civil Engineering Technologist GIS student, and one Office Assistant student. And that the Human Resource Manager be authorized to apply for wage subsidies for these positions through Canada Summer Jobs Program.
Mover and seconder? Leach, Wilson? All in favor? Carried. Next, we move to reports from outside boards. So we have a report and correspondence from the Police Services Board. There's the budget letter, there's the annual report, and the advocacy letter regarding bail reform. I know in the past, we have had the detachment commander come for, or join us for a presentation to walk us through the report. If that's a wish of council, we can always request a visit from Mr. Lucas. Is that of interest, or any questions regarding the annual report, or any discussions you would wish to have? It's up to you. Is there a plan to come, whether we invite them or not?
So through you, your mayor, they have reached out to me and they are trying to plan throughout the lower tier municipalities, essentially a Police Services Board roadshow, they're calling it, to come and present to all of council.
Yeah, so that would make sense. So we would be able to follow up on the annual report. If there are any items we'd like to, explore a little bit further, that would make sense. So that's good to hear. For now, as far as what we've received for this evening, any questions that we can send in advance of them visiting us? Sounds like we're okay. We'll proceed with the resolution. If you wish to speak to one of the items received, that they're sort of in one package, so go ahead.
Right, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to comment on the letter from Jenkins about bail reform. I do agree with him. It seems like there's more and more people getting out and committing crimes, and the courts aren't tough enough, or the judges aren't tough enough, and I really think it has to be looked at. So I would support his letter 100%. Let's try to get this situation fixed. Too many people being killed and nonsense like that. Like, it's very sad that this happens. So thank you.
Yes, and I do sit on the board now, and I can attest it was a good discussion, and it was strong support from the board to send that letter. And as you see, as part of the letter is also raising the public awareness to the issues, so that every member of the public, every individual can also contact their MP to for their support bail reform if they wish. So thank you for those comments. Anything else? So as part of this item, there's also the minutes from the EECC Board Management from February 21st. And yeah, so we'll do those two first. We're ready to receive those. You want to read the resolution?
That the following reports of committees and outside boards be noted and filed: Elgin Group Police Services Board correspondence and the East Elgin Community Complex Board of Management minutes of February 21st, 2023.
Mover and seconder. Leach. Serna. All in favor? Carried. Deputy Mayor Widner, your question?
Just a question, Madam Mayor, the ice resurfacer is not part of this. It's just, we're getting information about it and we'll decide that at a later meeting. Is that how it goes? Thank you.
Yeah, I think we can consider that as part of our next budget meeting, which will be focused on capital items, including capital items for EECC. So I think that's the plan for next Tuesday. And Canada Day, and yeah. So the different requests that we've received. So this evening we dealt with the desiccant unit because it was urgent. to move with that, but we'll consider the rest of the items as part of our overall budget discussion. Thank you for clarifying that. So the other, so did we pass that? Okay. Losing track now. So the other correspondence we have from the ECC board is the request to appoint 2 members to the Governance Review Committee. As the one who suggested that at the board, I will volunteer to sit on that committee. And I've also received expressed interest from Councillor Lewis. So that would be my recommendation, that I sit on that committee with Councillor Lewis. Obviously at the discretion of council to accept those 2 appointments and this recommendation. Any discussions or questions? Resolution?
That the Council of the Township of Malahide receive the EECC board letter regarding the EECC Governance Review Committee appointments, and that the Council of the Township of Malahide appoint Dominique Jaguar and Scott Lewis to serve on the EECC Governance Review Committee, and that these appointments be included in the passing of bylaw 23-15.
Mover and seconder, Glinsky, Cerna, all in favor? Carried. Next on the agenda, we have the balance of the correspondence received. Any comments, endorsements? Councillor Glinsky?
Just point out number 6, dealing with cannabis. I think that's a burning topic throughout Ontario. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So yes, I think it's sort of making its rounds and sort of almost, I think I believe been initiated in our jurisdiction. And so it's good to see an endorsement. I also note that in that correspondence, there is a template for a call to action. I think that letter is very well crafted. It addresses the issues that we are dealing with. So I would recommend that we send that letter on behalf of Township. You agree? Is there consent to do so? Good. Any other endorsements or comments? Do what we can, that's for sure. So resolution.
That number 6 be supported and then the remainder of the items be noted and filed.
Mover and seconder. Lewis and Glinsky, all in favor? Carried. Other business. Deputy Mayor Widner.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick county council update. I guess everybody knows the budget was adjusted. We were at 2 point something and we went in the 4 range, low 4. That was just, there's 2 big road projects and they're being deferred. It wasn't unanimous with the county council, but we kind of met halfway and kept it lower. So we'll have to put some money in savings to do these road projects because they're not cheap and they just stack up. We can't put them off forever. And then we also purchased a new vehicle for the tourism. And again, wasn't unanimous either. You can imagine who didn't vote for it, but anyway. And other than that, just a few reports. It wasn't a whole lot, just information and some good presentations. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Any comments? And we will we'll review our procedure bylaw so that we can include the county highlights and then I'll provide documentation to your narrative. So, because I think it is a good idea to bring these points here and then clarify anything that you see in those highlights. Any other business? If not, we'll proceed with bylaws.
That bylaw number 23-15 being a bylaw to provide for the naming of persons to positions and to appoint such members as are necessary to the various boards and committees as representatives of the Malahide Township Council to be given first, second, and third readings and be properly signed and sealed.
Mover and seconder. Serna, Leach, all in favor? Carried.
That bylaw number 23-14 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a grant agreement with Federation of Canadian Municipalities for the Municipal Asset Management Program be given first, second, and third readings and be properly signed and sealed.
Mover and seconder, Glinsky, Wilson, all in favor? Carried. And we can now move into closed session.
That council move into closed session at 8:06 PM pursuant to section 239-2 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss the following: labor relations or employee negotiation matters relating to a shared staff recruitment matter of the Development Services Department.
Mover and seconder. Widner, Lewis, all in favor? Carried. And we're now back from closed session, the resolution.
So that during closed session, council provided direction to municipal staff regarding a shared staff recruitment matter relating to the Development Services Department, and there's nothing further to report.
Right, so it's just information. It's not a resolution. My apologies. So confirmatory bylaw then?
That bylaw number 23-11 being a confirmatory bylaw be given first, second, and third reading and be properly signed and sealed.
Mover and seconder. Serna, Lewis, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. And adjournment.
That the council adjourn its meeting at 8:32 PM to meet again for a regular council meeting on March 16th, 2023 at 7:30 PM.
Mover and seconder, Blinsky, Widner, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.